Hi and welcome. Today I'll share the strategies I use on this map, which I consider one of the best in War Thunder. In my opinion, this map stands out because it offers a wide range of tactical options, including flanking maneuvers, close quarters combat, and of course, sniping. And that's exactly where we'll start. As we move to our position, we need to keep an eye on this area. Only a handful of players know where to go to intercept you on the way. Our goal is to reach this spot. From here, we get an excellent view of key roads that the enemy will be using, giving us a major tactical advantage. In our sights, we have two key roads that the enemy will use. I've marked the road to point B in green and the road to point C in red. These are two critical areas that you must control throughout the battle. The next area to watch is to your left. This is a common route for players attempting a flank, either pushing into Sector A2 or playing around the rocks in Sector B3. If you spot an enemy here and there are no teammates covering lines A and B, you're at serious risk of getting shot in the back. If your team controls the sectors I've marked on the minimap, you don't have to worry about getting flanked. Once the fight for key objectives begins, you need to start gathering intel from the minimap. If the enemy captures point B, they'll often push forward afterward, and you'll spot them in the area I've marked in green. If they take point C, they might head toward you along this street. Additionally, if you tilt your camera slightly upward, you'll gain visibility over this area, where enemies might also appear. At first, this position might seem difficult because you have to keep track of multiple angles, but I highly recommend trying it out. It's one of the strongest spots on the map. Even if you don't feel confident managing multiple sight lines at once, you'll still be a valuable asset to your team by simply holding your scope on the roads leading to B and C at all times. Guys, personally, I play this position only when I want to relax and go for a more passive playstyle. I get that this spot isn't for everyone, some of you might find it boring, but it's undeniably effective. I believe everyone should at least know about it because it gives you the option to rack up a solid number of kills with minimal effort while staying completely chill. I'm sure many will agree that getting 7 kills in a match from a position that doesn't rely on flanking or spawn camping is a great result. If you prefer a more aggressive playstyle and enjoy close quarters combat, you can head straight into the fight for point C. This is usually where the most intense battles happen, as players test their close-range combat skills. As soon as we enter Sector G3, we need to check this area. An enemy tank might already be on the move, giving you the opportunity for a clean kill. From here, we take up this position and start fighting for control over point C. This is a great spot to sharpen your close quarters combat skills, and it's relatively easy to play. One crucial thing to remember: do not push too close to the building in front of you unless your teammates have control over point B. If the enemy manages to capture B, they'll have a solid chance to take you out if you're positioned too close to the building. Once we secure point C, all we need to do is push forward and take this position. From here, we get a fantastic view across the entire map and full control over the enemy's exit routes from their spawn. Of course, the hardest part of this strategy is surviving the fight for point C. As with any urban battle, anything can happen. However, if you manage to reach this rock in one piece, the reward will be well worth it. Expect to rack up a solid number of kills. I've got a couple more tips for you in the fight for point C. If you're playing a fast tank and notice that plenty of teammates are pushing with you, you can take this position. It will give you partial control over the area around point B and allow you to cover your team from enemies trying to slip between B and C to intercept reinforcements coming from spawn. You should also remember that if things go south and your team starts losing the fight for point C, you can deploy a smoke screen and retreat to these rocks. This spot is also a great choice if you're playing a slower tank or if fewer than 3 teammates are pushing C with you. It's a strong defensive position that will prevent the enemy from taking control of sectors G2 and G3, key areas from which they could otherwise wipe out your team's reinforcements coming from spawn. Another crucial tip for playing on this side: if your team lets a spawn camper slip into sector A2 or onto the rocks in B3, you can counter them using this position. Of course, it's a risky move, but if you manage to take out the enemy blocking your spawn, your team will be extremely grateful. And you know who I'm grateful to? Every single one of you who watches my videos, hits that like button, and subscribes to the channel. Guys, I know it can be annoying when content creators ask for likes and subs, but you have no idea how much these simple actions motivate me to keep making videos. Thank you for watching my channel, and a huge shout out to those who hit the join button and became channel members. Your support means the world to me, and I truly appreciate it. Since we started this video with a strong camping position, let's now break down how to play from the opposite side, also starting with a powerful sniper spot. There are 2 key zones here. The green zone is the route used by players who want to hide behind the rocks while getting a decent view of point A. The red zone is the path enemies take, either to flank or to capture point A. Our goal is to land the first shot from this position. Staying here too long isn't worth it, so now we need to climb onto the rocks nearby. From this position, we have a view of almost half the map. Besides the key roads leading to point A, we also get a partial line of sight on the position I mentioned at the beginning of the video. Additionally, we have some visibility on point B, and occasionally you can pick up a frag there. Make sure to keep an eye on this part of the map. Enemies sometimes move through this area, and in almost every match you'll spot at least one opponent near these rocks. You won't believe it, but we even have partial visibility on point C from here. The entire gameplay strategy revolves around controlling the key positions I've shown and dealing damage to the enemy team. This position isn't always consistent. Sometimes you can rack up 10 kills, while other times you might spend half the match without a single frag. The main issue is that while you're watching one key route, an enemy might slip through another. Still, for players who enjoy sniper positions, this spot is definitely worth trying out. The second strategy I use most often is the fight for point C. As soon as we pass the barrel, we need to switch to sniper mode. Our crosshair should be roughly at the level of the road sign that says 40. Right around the corner of this building is the road where enemies push toward point C. Landing shots here is really tough because you have almost no time to aim. That's why I always just line up my crosshair with the road sign and take the shot, hoping for a lucky hit. As soon as we reach the destroyed building, things get really interesting. About 40% of your attention should be on the left side of the screen. This is where the enemy team usually rushes in like maniacs, and our job is to outplay them with skill and punish their mistakes. The remaining 90% of your focus should be on the right side, where enemies will be pushing into point C. This position is incredibly challenging, especially if you want to play efficiently. And yes, you really do need 130% awareness to hold it properly. The toughest challenge you'll face in this position is dealing with the guy hiding behind the rocks I mentioned earlier. This strategy has one major issue, which becomes a problem in the second phase of the fight, when we need to push the enemy team. You can play perfectly around point C, maneuvering, punishing mistakes, and playing so well it could be textbook material. But if you fail to spot the enemy in the rocks on your left, you'll simply get deleted, and your team's push into enemy territory will most likely fall apart. I hope you get what I'm saying. If you're not 100% sure there's no enemy on the left, just hold point C. Don't even think about pushing into the enemy side of the map. If your team wins the fight for point C, I move to this position. From here, I have partial visibility on point B, and I can also intercept any enemies trying to push towards C. Guys, while editing this video, I had to cut out a lot of small moments because the runtime was getting ridiculously long. And that got me thinking, I have a question for you. How would you feel about separate videos for complex strategies like this one? I could break down exactly what I'm doing and why, explaining my thought process as someone with over 3,000 hours in War Thunder. Maybe you'd even be interested in watching a full unedited match from my perspective. Let me know in the comments what you think about this format. And finally, I've saved a strategy that's perfect for those who love flanking attacks. I rarely use this one because it's highly unpredictable. Everything depends on whether we can make it through the first line in Sector A3. If we reach these rocks, all that's left to do is pick off enemies right on their own spawn. To be honest, I originally wanted to save this position for a different series where we analyze specific spots rather than strategies for a particular map. However, considering that each new episode in that series is getting fewer and fewer views, I'm not sure if it even makes sense to continue it on the channel. Either way, I hope the information in this video was useful to you. Thanks for watching, see you soon, and take care.